The world of trade is a finely tuned machine. When the US slapped a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, it sent shockwaves across global markets. Canada and the European Union didn't back down, firing back with retaliatory tariffs. This escalation of tensions between longtime allies, could this be the breaking point for international trade partnerships? Buckle up as we break down the 7 biggest consequences of this high-stakes standoff. Canada fires back. Retaliation hits American industries where it hurts. Canada wasted no time in striking back, branding the US tariffs as unfair and unjustified. The Canadian government responded with its own countermeasures, targeting American exports that matter most, from iconic American products like whiskey and orange juice to essential household items such as dishwashers and refrigerators. Canada's strategy was clear: hit sectors deeply reliant on Canadian trade. And guess what? Industry ended up in the crosshairs. Automotive manufacturing. Canada is a major supplier of aluminum, the backbone of modern vehicle production. US automakers depend heavily on Canadian-sourced materials to build everything from sedans to SUVs. By slapping tariffs on key US exports, Canada made a bold statement: mess with our industry, and your own economy will feel the heat. Beyond dollars and cents, Canada's move was a direct challenge to American lawmakers, forcing them to reconsider the broader economic impact of these tariffs. As tensions escalated, car manufacturers, suppliers, and dealers on both sides of the border began voicing serious concerns about rising costs and unpredictable supply chains. Could this be the beginning of an even deeper economic divide between two historically close allies? The European Union strikes back. A united trade offensive. The European Union wasn't about to take these tariffs lying down. Officials in Brussels immediately condemned the move, calling it a violation of global trade rules and a major disruption to international commerce. Rather than responding with empty words, Europe went full throttle on retaliation. Their target? Key American industries that hold significant economic and political weight. The EU slapped tariffs on Harley-Davidson motorcycles, bourbon, and denim, products that define American manufacturing and culture. But the real pain came in the form of increased costs for high-quality European steel, which many American industries rely on for production. The result? Massive supply chain disruptions. The US is a huge importer of European steel, particularly high-grade materials used in automobile frames, performance parts, and safety reinforcements. With these tariffs in play, car manufacturers faced a tough choice: absorb skyrocketing costs or pass them on to consumers. Could this aggressive response from the EU mark the beginning of a prolonged economic battle? Auto industry takes a hit. Rising costs and job risks. The auto industry felt the brunt of these tariffs, with steel and aluminum costs surging by 25%. US automakers, heavily dependent on imports from Canada and Europe, had no choice but to either absorb the costs or pass them on to consumers. Ford, GM, and Tesla warned of rising production expenses, which translated to higher car prices. This not only hurt consumer affordability but also made American vehicles less competitive globally. Beyond pricing, job security in the industry took a hit as companies struggled to cut costs. Layoffs became a looming threat. Supply chain disruptions led to production delays, leaving dealerships with dwindling inventories and sluggish sales. With rising expenses and market instability, the question remains: will American automakers find a way to adapt, or are they on a collision course with long-term decline? Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. This helps us reach more auto enthusiasts just like you. Now, let's shift gears and steer towards our next point. A global trade shake-up. Alliances shift and supply chains reroute. This trade dispute didn't just affect North America and Europe. It sent ripple effects across the entire global economy. Nations like China, Japan, and Mexico saw an opportunity to strengthen their relationships with Canada and the EU, creating new trade deals that could sideline the US entirely. New suppliers emerged, fresh partnerships were formed, and long-standing trade agreements began to shift. Canada and the EU started seeking alternative sources for goods previously imported from the US, weakening American dominance in global trade. For decades, the US has been an economic powerhouse. But these tariffs may accelerate a shift in influence, with Canada and the EU looking elsewhere for trade partners. Could this be the start of a new world order in international commerce? Inflation hits hard, rising prices for everyone. One of the biggest ripples from these tariffs. Inflation. Steel and aluminum aren't just crucial for cars, planes, and buildings. They're in everything from household appliances to canned goods. When tariffs pushed material costs sky high, manufacturers had no choice but to raise prices across the board. And guess who felt it first? The average American consumer. Suddenly, cars got pricier, beer cost more, and even refrigerators took a hit. Economists sounded the alarm. Higher costs could slow down economic growth as everyday spending tightens up in response, with long-term inflationary pressure looming. What happens next if these tariffs stick around? Could we see an even bigger economic slowdown? The national security dilemma, protectional paradox. The US justified these tariffs under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, arguing that a strong domestic steel and aluminum industry is essential for national security. Sounds reasonable, right? Not so fast. Canada, one of America's closest military allies, is a key supplier of aluminum for US defense manufacturing. By taxing imports from a trusted partner, the US may have weakened its own supply chain, creating vulnerabilities rather than securing them. So, was this really about national security, or was it a clever economic maneuver wrapped in a patriotic bow? That's the million-dollar question. Trade war without an end, what's next? Beyond rising costs and global tensions, the biggest consequence of these tariffs is uncertainty. With Trump standing firm on trade barriers, businesses and global markets struggled to predict the future. Would a new administration reverse the tariffs, or were they now a permanent fixture of US trade policy? Prolonged uncertainty stifles growth. Companies hesitant to invest in manufacturing, supply chains, and job creation risk slowing the economy. Automakers, in particular, faced unpredictable costs and market instability, making long-term strategies difficult. The longer this trade standoff continues, the greater the chance of lasting economic damage. Could these tariffs shape America's trade legacy for years to come? Or will diplomacy shift gears and steer things back to stability? The road ahead remains unclear. Final verdict, was it worth it? Steel and aluminum tariffs were meant to shield American industries. But did they cause more harm than good? From higher consumer prices to industry-wide disruptions, the fallout has been far-reaching. The backlash from Canada and the EU exposed how delicate global trade relationships truly are. So now we turn it over to you. Was this a bold move for American manufacturing, or has it pushed the US toward economic isolation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit the subscribe button so you never miss any updates. More expert takes, industry insights, and gearhead discussions are coming your way. Thanks for tuning in.